Ms. Mills and Mr. Kurtz, as I've sat here over the last year and a half and watched this play out, are there any tools that you need? You mentioned tools a minute ago to be able to do your job. Are there any additional tools or things that you need that we can help you with that you see right now?
Well, to be honest with you, this oversight is actually extremely helpful. And we see this as a partnership. You know, it's difficult to make progress, but we have changed the view, I think now, in partnership, that this is a valid concern, that we do oversight and that we don't tolerate fraud, waste, and abuse, and that we have to have integrity in the programs. We are trying to use our resources as effectively as possible. We do appreciate the help that many have given us in terms of going after bad actors.
Okay, but do you need anything else? You got what you need?
Yes, I think we would very much like to have the budget.
I apologize for cutting you off. I just got 5 minutes here. I've got several questions. So, Mr. Kurtz.
Two things. There may be some software or other law enforcement type tools they don't have access to that we have in some cases, or other law enforcement that they could use. But I think the big one here is getting the Department of Justice and some U.S. attorneys interested in taking these cases. Because if you don't get U.S. attorneys interested in taking the cases, you're going to get a declination, as I mentioned in my opening statement. So this committee perhaps could work with the Department of Justice and SBA and the whole IG investigative community to try to make at least a couple examples a year of these firms in maybe each program, 8A, Service Disabled Veteran, Hub Zone, et cetera. Because otherwise, you know, if a U.S. attorney won't take a case, you're out of luck. If they say this isn't interesting, or as I mentioned, there's no loss to the government by these frauds, then they're not going to do anything, and you won't get any prosecutions.
Well, that's always a problem with law. I mean, we can make all the laws here in the world. They're all great laws, but there's no enforcement of them. We've just wasted our time and wasted a lot of trees. So I think, to me, enforcement is a key provision here. Next question of you, Mr. Kurtz. Are you working with the SBA with recommendations regularly in your oversight to explain to them what you see, where weaknesses are, what your recommendations are?
Well, we did
instead of playing a game of gotcha.
Right. After the undercover, under our protocols, we have to first of all brief the requester, which is the chairwoman's staff, and then we brief the agency on what we've done, and we've provided past recommendations. I don't know if we have any new recommendations. I think just some of the things like using the Internet tools. I think the administrator said they've staffed up to 20 people. I don't know how well trained they are, but the training and type of backgrounds they have are important. So we're always available. And 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, I sat down for an hour and a half with their consultant and kind of did a brain dump of everything we could think of that they could do. So we have and will always be available to help them.
Okay, Ms. Mills, with regards to that, can you give them a percentage of the stuff that they've given you that you've implemented at this point?
Well, in the past recommendations, particularly on 8A, they gave us 12 distinct recommendations. They were really excellent. They were like a roadmap, and we've done all 12. We're in the process of doing the last 5, but we've accepted all 12, and we've implemented the majority.
Okay, Mr. Kurtz, with regards to other programs that SBA has implemented, how much oversight have you or how much investigation have you done in those, and are there problems in other areas?
8A, definitely. We issued a report to the chairwoman on that, and we found 14 firms with $325 million of fraud. And as she mentioned, there's been some recommendations and certainly progress. Okay. The one that's probably the most troubling, I think Representative Nye had a field hearing I attended on service-disabled veteran-owned small business, and that's a joint effort with SBA and VA. That's very troubling. We continue to get dozens and dozens of allegations of fraud in that program. I believe that there's significant fraud still.
Well, one of the problems that I see is the fact that, you know, and I've served in the private sector, and I've also served in the public sector. In the public sector, you're dealing with lifetime bureaucrats, and it's difficult with their mindset to sometimes change, which is what you're trying to do, to change them to become a different type of organization, to look at things in a different light. This is the way they've done it for the lifetime. They've been there 20, 30 years. You're not going to tell me anything different. I'm going to outlast you because you're going to be gone with the next administration. All I've got to do is bide my time, and we'll deal with the next administrator. That's a problem. And I think, in fairness to you, Ms. Mills, I think that the inherent problem with bureaucracy and trying to change their attitudes is a difficult thing. And I admire, I certainly understand your task, although obviously we've got to do it. We've got to change it because obviously we've got some problems here that we've been looking at for a long, long time. With that, I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you.